sometimes there's too much of it. So again, improving the drainage system based on that study, kind of a follow-up action. And a couple more that got carried over from the MVP planning process. Again, public outreach and education is very important to reach those that are most affected. And then understanding that there's a diverse population in Revere, making sure that the resources that are available can be used by the different population groups, including those that are potentially vulnerable population groups. Then this slide starts the list of additional items and actions that were identified through the meetings that we've had with the city's local hazard mitigation planning committee, as well as the earlier stakeholder meeting that we had this year. Some of those include upgrading Point of Pines pump station and the pump that's located there, working on, again, some drainage issues, adding a new outfall. This heat effect issue can help it can be helped by tree canopy. So looking at more vegetation, especially in areas that have a lot of impervious surface and cover, trying to increase the overall canopy in the city. Some marsh restoration efforts. These are great absorption areas for those coastal hazards, and taking care of them and improving them is very important. The city's had success with that in the past and wants to do more of that. Beach nourishment issues, restoration, and then also, tying in hazard mitigation when there's capital improvement projects happening, making sure that this connection is being made to the needs in the city. A few others, drainage improvements, again, some roadway related issues. There was a great riverfront master plan that was conducted for a portion and project site in the Riverside area, Point of Pines area. And I think that's going to be moving forward with looking into some stormwater management efforts. And then also out of the MVP action grant that was recently completed, there were some next steps identified for coastal resilience in the Point of Pines Riverside area. And then also just helping out with the emergency response, getting some high water fire trucks so they can access the high water areas. And then linked to we had the pump station before. This is looking at more on the wastewater side. Then a couple more here that were identified. There's some renewed interest in energy with a project that's been looked at for a long time. It's more regional in nature rather than just Revere, but Revere can do its part by advocating for it. And this is the Army Corps' Regional Flood Protection Project that's looking to help out both Revere, Saugus, Malden, other communities. And it's a very large and important effort. So the city of Revere is definitely a champion for that. And then it was also identified there was a seawall that was potentially needing some improvements and reinforcements. But all in all, I didn't cover all of them, but there's a total of 48 actions that are included in the 2021 update. Each of them has kind of a ballpark cost, which departments are going to be responsible for tracking and implementing them. And that's all included in the review or the version of the plan that's available for review. So I encourage you, if you're interested to find out more, to go to the action section and you can find out all those details.
I also just want to point out that the City of Revere was also awarded a grant to begin a regional working group between Revere, Lynn, Malden, Everett, and Saugus to begin discussions on the Pines River and Saugus River watershed for flood protection as well. So those conversations will be starting in the next few weeks. So with that said, Erin, thank you so much for running us through that. As Erin mentioned, the plan is obviously much longer than this 27-page presentation, and it is available for everyone's consumption on the website. If anybody is having any trouble reaching it or accessing it, please feel free to reach out to me at ebaker@revere.org. If you have any questions or comments, you can also send those my way. And again, we'll be accepting feedback until October 15th. And again, I thank all of you for being here tonight. And I'd like to open it up if anybody has any comments or questions or anything you would like to expand upon for all of those that are here on the call.
I'd like to state one thing that having been involved in the 2005 and 2015 update for the hazard mitigation plan for the city, there's been one difference that I see, and that is now climate change, and particularly sea level rise, which has now been put at the forefront of all the discussions we've had, and kind of impose a sense of urgency for a lot of these projects we're talking about with the that are being prioritized as part of the hazard mitigation plan. Back in 2005, 2015, there was discussion of sea level rise, but the data wasn't as significant that is available now that really brought it to light. So it wasn't taken as seriously as it is now, and it's as a result of that, I think the city is now moving forward in a more positive mindset of urgency to get these projects completed with the help of the state and federal government.
I would agree.
Yeah. I just want to thank Elle for spearheading the effort. She kept us all on track, and it was a good process, and happy to see it end.
Thank you. It's been a long process. I think we started meeting over a year ago, but I think we've collected a lot of great data, and we've had a lot of great interactions with the stakeholders as well through both the Riverfront Master Plan, the MVP process, which has been folded into the hazard mitigation planning, as well as a lot of the efforts that we've taken hold of with the resiliency study for MVP in Point of Pines and Riverside area. So we definitely want to dig a little deeper throughout the other vulnerable areas in the city, and the MVP planning process has really been able to enable us to move projects forward. So as Aaron mentioned, there were some projects identified in the feasibility study that we've already gone out for funding to MVP and been awarded funding to move those projects forward to planning stages. So with that said, I also want to give a shout out to Don Chamella. He's been instrumental, as well as Frank and Joe Maglione, as well as Steve that is also on the call. Thank you all for all of your feedback and all of your efforts along the way and sharing information. We also have Jack Macari on the phone as well from the Point of Pines Beach Association, who was also heavily involved with the feasibility study for Point of Pines and Riverside. So thank you to all of you. Does anybody else have any last comments or anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I do briefly.
Hi, Jack. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for all the work you folks have done. You know, as I'd like something to be able to show to the Beach Association Board of Directors. Now, I've been along for the ride and looked at all your documents, but and you referred to a website and but you know, as I look at the document, it's not really accessible to people that aren't willing to put hours into it. It's, you know, okay, introduction, how we assess the risk. It's the hows and whys, but nothing says this is the actual plan. The mitigation actions was the best thing that I could show people. And I'd love to see all 48 actions. That's sort of to me, a condensed, I need a condensed version to be able to interact with, you know, the membership and especially the board. I guess that's it.
Thank you for that feedback. We can see what we can do to pull out those elements of the report and make it into a more accessible summary.
Thanks.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
thank you for that.
Just to add to that, as far as excerpting or having something that's more readily shared, or the so what takeaways, there is a hazard mitigation strategy There's also some loud motorcyclists outside my house too. Sorry about that. But there's a section that does really frame it, the goals, the actions. So yes, I think between the city and us, we can get you something.
Absolutely. Thanks. That's a great comment, John.
Thanks, guys. Everybody.
Steve had a comment in the chat, maybe an executive summary to reflect the FEMA requirements. Great point. Thank you. Okay.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah,
Thank you.
no problem. I know that there's a format to what FEMA requires
Right.
because that's how you get your funding. But the point is to John's Jack requirement or comment was that just boil it down a bit somehow. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you all for joining us. I'm going to give it one more moment. If anyone has any last comments. And with that, I'd really just like to thank everyone for their participation. There are a lot of people that are involved that are not on the call this evening, but definitely had a lot of input and feedback to the planning process throughout many of the different strategies that we've had for mitigation planning. So with this report, we're looking forward to moving things forward and going after some additional grant funding and capital planning funds to reinforce our mitigation plans. So thank you to AECom for being our fearless leaders through this process. We really appreciate it and hope everyone has a great night. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Night.